Okay, we're back up and running. I think we've got everything set up correctly in the stream. Um, should be good. Everything looks right. All right. So we are going to be jumping right back in, and I want to start improving kind of the general layout of the app. So I quickly Googled how to actually change the Streamlit width, which I didn't know you could actually do. So I kind of learned this through this process. So when I'm in letter mode, everything looks okay. I like the way the font is structured. I like all that. But when I go into like this side by side mode, it looks a little cramped to me. I've got these images here and I've got the text that looks really thin. I've got a couple different options. I can adjust the text size, but then that starts to introduce problems if a person's using the app, like, on a cell phone. And Streamlit works pretty well on a cell phone. Not great, but pretty well. So I found that I can actually change the width of the page by this command, st.set page config layout equals wide, which I didn't know that I could do. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and see if I can play around with this and get this to actually work for me. So I'm going to import it right here. The docs say to put it at the very top of your code immediately after you import everything, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit save, and let's rerun this app. And it looks kind of similar. Oh, there we go. So now when I'm in the full screen mode, everything is actually spaced better. I think this looks a lot nicer. Let me zoom in just a little bit, and it scales with the zoom. That looks good. So now you're able to actually see the data, the raw text on the left. You can now copy and paste it, and you can kind of do some manual checking on the right. I'm going to try to improve that. I think I would like to imitate with the header. I'm not sure if I can. I think I can introduce some HTML. It would be cool if I could imitate the centering of that. I think it'll make the display of the raw text look more matching with this over here. So let's give that a go. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that. I think I can just adjust the HTML when the actual letter is outputted, or the salutation is outputted. So we can either do call right that, or what we can do is let's get the salutation, letter, header, salutation, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that data to modify it a little bit into HTML. So I think in HTML I can just use a center tag, and I think it automatically makes these adjustments here to the HTML. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to say salutation HTML is going to be equal to, I'm going to format this, and I'm going to do a center tag, the salutation, followed by the close of the center tag. Pretty sure that's right. Might have to look this up just to make sure. And then we're going to do the now popular unsafe HTML allow equals true. And let's rerun this. It should look a little different. Ooh, that's nice. That is nice. I think that looks a lot better. It actually mimics that over there, and I'm wondering if I can mimic the indentation on these paragraphs. Let's see if I can pull it off. How to indent in HTML. I'm sure there's a way to do it. And it looks like you have to add some CSS. I really don't want to. Oh, there's a P-class tab. Oh no, that's referring back to the type in the CSS. Rel style sheet. Oh, it looks like here. This is a recommended method. This is actually not going to be using. All right. So I think I can do this if I split it at the double line break and then introduce these p tags wherever the paragraph starts. So let's go back into where we're displaying our output, which is right here. So the letter. So we're going to say letter is going to be equal to letter.split. And then we're going to insert that. We're going to split it at the occurrence of a double line break, or is it a double bar that I have there? I have to go back to my HTML. Where's it grabbing it from? My letter is coming from... Where do I first define letter? Here we go. Alright, so it's cleaned letters, just making sure where it was at. So we're going to go into our data, into our cleaned letters, and let's take a look at what it looks like. Okay, I just used double line breaks. So I'm going to introduce these p tags when I re-merge everything. So I'm going to say for, make a new one called new letters, it's going to be equal to that. For L in letters, new letters dot append. It's probably a better way to do this, but we're gonna just stick with this. Let's get rid of these outside. There we go. Then we're gonna do new letters dot append. And we're gonna say L plus. Actually, let's just do this. P. And we're going to follow that with a BR and a BR. And what have I done wrong? I've gotta have close to that. That should be good. And we've got a problem. Letters not defined. For L and letter. Alright, that should be better now. And we got to include that unsafe HTML, but what I'm seeing is the format that I wanted to see. Unsafe HTML allow equals true. Let's rerun. Doesn't have the ability to join. Oh, I put that in the wrong place. There we go. Let's delete that. And rerun. Okay, it's looking a little bit better. Let's maximize it to make sure it's what we want to see. I'm not seeing the indent like I want. I'm seeing the indent across the board. I think I need to make sure that the indent is a little different. I can fix that. So what's happening here? Is it possible to achieve the same result in the above inline HTML? That's for indenting. How do I indent just the first word? HTML. So it looks like I can achieve it with that instead. So let's try that. So instead of margin left, we are going to be using indent. 40 pixels might be a lot. I don't know. We'll see. Let's refresh. Yay, that's what we wanted. So that looks all right. That looks all right to me. So what we got here is we're not trying to preserve the same line break. What we're trying to preserve is the same feel that we have in the main body. So kind of trying to replicate the Streamlit app. And I don't think that's too bad. So I think we're going to be all right here. So let's go ahead and get rid of these double BRs. I think that might be excessive. That's looking a little cleaner. Looks a lot cleaner, actually. I want to keep that separation. I don't like it when text with paragraph breaks are kind of bleeding into each other. So we've kind of managed to preserve that. Now, we need to do some data cleaning. And what I mean by this is we need to clean up these references on the left. We need to also clean up, well, we're not going to worry about cleaning up the OCR just yet, because we can do that in a batch process. But I want to clean up also some of these problems that we see here with manuscripts. I have a way of doing that. I actually found my old data set of all these letters with the manuscripts in which they're found. But the other thing I want to do is I want to tidy up the fact that, for example, this doesn't need to have page 2. That just looks sloppy. So we need to actually edit our JSON file a little bit. So unfortunately, this is going to have to be done now on a letter-by-letter basis. And this is kind of what makes a DH project stand out, is actually having reliable and cleaned up data. So on a letter-by-letter basis, we can kind of go through and do these little manual cleanings here and there. For example, the page spans. Let's go to that JSON. We know that 1 ends on page 18. So let's save that, and you can see how quickly this is going to look better. Page... Oops, that's gone away. Okay. Oh, that's because we need to have 2. We need to have the start and the end. That was my fault. Because our code relies on this number being the start of it and that one being the end. So if there's ever just something that occurs on one page, we need to make sure we have that. So we've got 3. 3 is not in our system. We know that 2 is correct. We can go down to 4. And this is the nice thing about having this app here, is that we can do some quick manual validation. It's a little difficult to see that. It'd be easier to do probably on a different screen. But if we go through, we see that 4 is in fact on 2 pages. So we want to preserve that. One of the things I'm not seeing is where the page change happens, which should be right in here. I don't see that being preserved. I'd like to see that preserved. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. That looks good though. And we see the salutation centered, just like what we wanted to see. That's cool. All right, so let's try to work on these manuscripts and getting kind of the next phase of this project complete, which is going to be working on the manuscript data. So I've gone ahead and I've already imported it here. I got a big problem, is that I did this many years ago. Actually, not many. I think it was about a year and a half ago. And I've got a big problem here, and that's that I don't have any of the leading zeros for these numbers, and everything else has a leading 0. So I've got a couple different options. For right now, I'm going to not worry about it. I'm going to work it into the app and manipulate the data. But when I convert everything, eventually all of this data is going to sit in a giant pandas data frame. Right now, we're just kind of doing some hacky things to get it up and running quickly. And then the end project will have the pandas data frame that sits in it that you can kind of query and you can navigate more natively. And that means that every single one of these function or conditions that we see all throughout this entire app won't have to be there, because they're all going to be pulling from the same structured row in a pandas data frame. So let's go ahead though and start trying to load this manuscript data in. I'm going to add in, again, yet another this is where this gets clunky, loading in a bunch of different JSON files instead of just loading in one data frame, but we're going to make it work. So we're going to say collections underscore, that really helps if you put your hands on the right keys, collections underscore data.json. And this is going to be, we're going to call this our collections. And I'm calling it collections because it's the way in which we can identify collections of letters over time. We're going to see that in a little bit, I think, in this app if we have time. Collections underscore data.json. Great. Now, I want this to populate on, let's populate first on the letter page. I think it'll be a little cleaner to kind of work in letter mode right now. And while we're at it, we should probably fix that up as well in letter mode. We'll do that later. So we've got letter mode here. I want to have not just manuscripts here, but I want to have something called blof data. Maybe something like that, and another expander. So let's go ahead and we're going to be in letter mode. Okay, I'm going to make another expander, and I want this to sit Boloff expander. We're going to call it Boloff manuscripts. Or maybe something like manuscript. There we go. That way we can kind of separate these two out. We're calling it cleaned MSS, clean manuscripts expander. Cool. So what we want to write into that is we need to get the letter that we're looking at. I think we have the code for that down somewhere. We can use this bit of code here. This will help us add in the leading zeros. All right. We don't care about the image. We're going to grab the letter number. F-file. F-file is what we want. So we want to convert F-file into these double zeros. So we're going to say MMS letter num is going to be equal to F-file. We're going to back this up. Actually, we don't even really need that. Okay. And then we are going to, let's just try to write into it real quick. We're going to say cleaned MSS dot write, and let's just write in our data. So we have to get the data first, and the name of that data set is collections. So we're going to look into collections. Where am I at? And we need to, oh, we actually don't care about that. So we want to get clean ep. It doesn't have the leading zero, so we're actually okay. We don't have to worry about any of this. I think we can call it just like that and write that in. Let's rerun. Of course, there's an error. Trace back. Oh man. Okay. So we need to get the index, which is going to be, where am I at? This might do it for us. Cool, I did. So we've got that now, and this is going to be a list of the manuscripts, in which case H is a manuscript that corresponds to some other name, or some actual manuscript. It's not just called manuscript H in general. So what we want to do is we want to grab this data. So we're going to grab clean ep. Let's try to do that. Excellent. That's what we want to see. So these are the manuscripts in which it appears. I like that. That looks clean. And people who actually study these letters will know what those are. And maybe we should provide like a little key for individuals who are interested in them. But with that data, we can do some pretty powerful stuff. We can map out all the letters and the manuscripts. So let's do that. We can make a new mode. Let's call this textual network mode. And we're going to put in textual network mode, we're going to map out all of these manuscripts, and we're going to see what they look like when plotted out. So let's go to our Jupyter notebook now, and we're going to try to create a network. We're going to use a lot of the same code, and we're going to create a network for our manuscripts. Let's do that, and we're going to load in our data down here. Let's load it right here. We're going to load in collections data, and we're going to call this MSS. So for the manuscripts, so for M and MSS, we've got to grab that data. So we're going to say manuscripts is going to be equal to okay, and now we can iterate over this. So we're going to grab the 0 index. We're going to split everything at the occurrence of a column or comma. Okay. So if the length of is greater than 0, we are going to create source target. So let's say if the length of that is greater than 0, we're going to say for manuscript and manuscripts, we want to draw a line between the letter that we're looking at. Hey, thanks. Sorry, I just saw the chat. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking to try and figure out how all these letters map out. So let's print M just to kind of see where we're at. I'll comment that out. So if we know M, how do you get the key of a dictionary? I can't remember now. There we go. Okay, we're going to call this letter. Okay, so we're going to draw a line. Source.append letter. Target.append manuscript. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to output Alcuin textual network. Oh, let's call this sources, targets. And now let's go ahead and open it up. It's trying to open up in Windows Explorer for some reason. Not entirely sure why. Let's see what it looks like. Cool. This is actually a really good way to plot out and identify Alcuin's textual network, or his letters textual network. So how they survive in different collections over time. So each of these kind of represent a different geographical or temporal attempt to collect and distribute his letters. So let's go back to our notebook one more time. And I thought I changed the width to make it look better. I guess that does look better than what I was thinking. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of repeat a lot of what I did for the option Alcuin's epistolary network. So we're going to say, what do I call this? Alcuin textual network. So if it's epistolary network, that's what I should call it. So if it's epistolary network, no, textual network, because it's how they survive in the manuscripts. So if we do that, that equals that. I think that'll do it. Let's save it, let's rerun it, and let's test it. So we've got this, we're like, oh, that's cool, it's in a lot of manuscripts. We click down here, we go to Alcuin's textual network, and it loads just as we wanted. And you can zoom in. You can even play around with the nodes should you wish. But this is looking good. I don't know about the width of everything. I think I can adjust it down here. Looks like I can. So let's adjust the width to 1500. Okay, that's looking a little nicer. Cool. So that's done now. We've got the ability to actually look at and map all of his letters in different manuscripts. And that wasn't too bad. It might help to give people a ledger as well for what these different manuscripts stand for. So these are the typical ways you'd represent common manuscripts. These outliers are going to be ones that survive in few. So this is the HA and HB collection of manuscripts. Down here we've got T, which is the letters that survive in Tours. K and K2, K1 and K2 are the ones that survive from the region of Salzburg. And then we've got A1 is Salzburg, I think. K1 and K2 might be England. A1 over here. So what we actually have here is a way to map out all of his textual network pretty easily. So let's go back and switch to a different mode. So we're going to go back into letter mode. We should now be able to see all of the manuscripts represented there, and then the OCR of the manuscripts. And this is important because it means that you can kind of look at and distinguish between kind of this more recent circa 2005 scholarship compared to 19th century German scholarship. And also you can kind of understand that since it's OCR'd, you know that there might be a couple errors, like the CODD might just be COD, but we see the K1 there. This represents kind of the manuscripts that we'd expect to see in our manually validated set. So now that we can do that, we probably should add this into the side-by-side mode as well. And again, this is going to require some duplication here in our app, but we're going to clean that up when we convert everything into Panda's data frame. Whether we get to that in this video, this 48-hour period or not entirely sure. That could be something that comes out for beta, as opposed to this rapid alpha test that we're putting together. So let me go ahead and find where we were at, and copy our work in the letter mode into... Okay, I also want to copy this because I liked how I rendered the letters. Where was that? Expand, beta, clean manuscripts. That's going to be where I put that. Let's do these each one at a time. Let's make sure that we get this right. We're going to put that right here. Let's rerun that. We are going to need this to come after this part right here. Save that. That should look good now. We're seeing manuscripts right there. Alright, that should fix it. We had two of them with the same label. That's not putting that where I want it. Let's rerun it. It's dropping it all the way down to the bottom, and I'm not entirely sure why. I've got my cleaned manuscript expander placed higher up. Let's see. So we still have all this working correctly. Let's just clear cache and rerun the app. Well, oh, I know what I'm doing wrong. I don't have it loaded into the column. It's loading into the main body. That's the problem there. So we're going to put this into column 1, and now it's going to work just fine. Cool. There we are right there. So we got the people referenced. I want to do some of these things I did here and kind of clean up the description, or the salutation, and also clean up the do that indent that I did, that trick I did with the HTML. So I'm going to go ahead and do that down here. Where do I have the salutation at in my letter mode? So switch over to letter mode. And we want to get that salutation kind of more standard across all of these. So before we get to for person in person, this is all the sidebar stuff. Description, here we are. Salutation. Okay. Let's work it in right here. And then instead of column 1, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. We're just going to do that. And let's see if that worked. It did. Okay, great. Now the next thing I wanted to copy over was that little feature I had where it pasted out a letter with some better HTML. That's going to be right there. And we're going to write it to ST, not to the column 1. Let's rerun it. And cool, now it's indented. I just think that looks a little nicer, especially when the app is full like that. It was definitely made it look better when we were in side-by-side mode. I don't think for NER mode I'm going to be able to do it because that HTML is being generated by Spacey Streamlit. Hey, thanks. That's actually set up by Spacey Streamlit, and I don't want to mess with the HTML too much here because it might cause something to break. But for right now, I think what we're looking at is a much cleaner looking app. We got the find people on the left still, that's great. We might even want to consider organizing them alphabetically. Oh, we already did that. So we got side-by-side mode, and we would expect to find manuscript H there, and it's right there. Cool. So now we've got some better data that we can, or a cleaner user interface now. Let's kind of open these up. We can do all three at the same time. I'm quite pleased with this. I'm quite pleased. Let's make this width of this header a little different. So it actually takes up, we might not want to do that. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to mess with that because I'm concerned that if I do that, if I adjust the width, it's going to cause some things to kind of get messed up and not stretch the full length here and then scale correctly when we go into like a smaller mode. So I'm just going to leave that alone for right now. But what we've got here is something that looks like getting closer and closer to a reliably good good output. So again, we're not worried about the OCR right now. Let's go into letter mode. What we are going to care about though, and I think this is important, let's go back to side mode. I think this will be fairly easy to do. I want to clean up these scriptural references. I think we can do better, and I think with our app, we can definitely do some manual validation pretty easily and pretty quickly. So we know that ecol is going to be Ecclesiastes, ECCL. So let's go ahead and bring up where's our script refs? Script refs clean. So it's going to be ECCL. Great. Prov, that's 27. We can do Psalm 33. You can see how quickly we can kind of go through now with this app in hand and just automatically make some of these corrections. So this is going to be not LNE, but LUC, which is Luke. Same thing right here. We got Luke 17, 21, 33. Is that we got one missing, so great, we can add one in. So after Luke, let's add one in manually. We're going to add in Psalm, because I don't see it anywhere here, 33:10. And then we got Apocalypse, that's Revelations 22:12. And then not Baal, but Galatians. Cool. So that's how you can quickly just kind of go through and do some manual validation. And I think in the future it would be nice if we added some kind of notes about this. So we know on page 18, it's only letter 1, so we're not concerned. We need to come up with a way in the future to store which of these, after we clean everything, which of these occur for which letter. But again, we can go on now if we want to letter 2. We're not going to worry about letter 3 because as I've almost exhaustively mentioned, it contains data, or it contains it's not really a traditional letter. It's more of just a long edict from a church council, or records of a church council. So we're going to go with Judith, which is Judith. We're going to standardize I right now out of the gate. So let's do 7, and then that's it for that. We can close it right there. And this needs to be denoted like this. And we can load in this JSON file and clean it up and we can output it and save it again. That's not going to be a problem. The other thing that we have referenced here in this letter, it's going to be Psalm. Oh. So we got PS, which is Psalm, and that's going to be 1432. Now the reason why this data is so important to kind of standardize right now, or get set up right now, when we load everything into a pandas data frame, I don't think I'm going to have time to actually get to this in this 48 hours. It'll have to be another push that we do later on with the app. When a user gets to this database mode, they're going to be able to actually interact with a giant database and find all the letters that actually cite or reference something like maybe the Psalms in general. So you can actually get a list of all the letters and then go to them. But let's go back to our data cleaning and we're in letter mode, or side-by-side mode. And this is the other benefit of kind of widening this side out. We are able to pretty quickly get our app, make this image a bit more useful. I'm sitting on a 4K monitor right now. I think it should show up nicely for other monitors as well. And remember before, we didn't have any of these scriptural references down here. What we have is that manual validation needed. So we've gotten rid of that. That's good. Manual check still needed for the description. Where do I get these descriptions from? Where do I store them at? Let me go through and see if I can find them real fast. So let's go into the app. Salutation. Letter header. So letter header.json. Let's go ahead and add in this bit of information right now. So we've got, there we are. So Sanctissimo Patri et Amantissimo Filio Loit Fredo Episcopo, there we go. Episcopo Albinus Salutem. And I think I'm keeping the period for the salutums. Yes, I am. Excellent. So we've got that salutation now corrected. If we switch over to ep2, good. We can now have that placed in there. And we have description, manual check needed. Let's add that in now as well. So we got out queen oit fredum episcopum soeno b mugensis in Ibernia solatur et confirmat, and then that's confirmat, that's not a period, and that's another one, de benedicto monaco. Cool. All right, now we've got that in there. And let's go ahead and just add in these codices. It's H folios 63 to 63. And then we've got for this here, EDD F208. Again, I'm not so concerned about these because these aren't really that important anymore. Main column 493. Oh. All right, and now when we kind of reload this app, rerun, we should see this in there now, exactly as it should be. Now this has been manually validated. Manuscripts all appear in there, and I thought I saw a mistake when I went to letter 1. I did not, I was wrong. We got everything looking good here as well. When we look over here on the left-hand side, we've got a scriptural references popping out right here. That's good. And we'll use this to not on a page-by-page basis. I want to keep that annotation in here for right now, but I also want to store this information on a letter-by-letter basis. I think that'll be more important, but yeah. Cool. So letters 1 and 2 have been manually validated. Nothing in the OCR has been checked, but I think we have something that we can be happy about. The next thing I want to do is I want to fix up this OCR. So let's go to our data. I believe it's under cleaned letters, and we're going to grab the second page, or letter 2. And letter 2 starts right here. So what we can do is we can just get rid of all that. It starts off with it's a very short letter. And then let's go ahead. I already see a mistake. We can clean up. Excellent. And that should be a neck, not a nay. Cool. And let's save that. Rerun. Excellent. And these changes aren't going to be present in the cloud just yet. We need to update each of these different files when we push to the cloud. But when we do, we'll be able to actually have all this data up and running. And I'm happy with that. And this is a good thing to bring people in on. This is something that crowdsourcing really can help a lot with. So it looks like we did get everything here. I'm happy with that. So we've got a lot of stuff a lot of things we can improve here. So let's go over to our letter header. That one was correct. Our references for page, in this case, 20. Oh, page 4 is going to be a lot further down. So page 29. Got a lot of things that are looking wrong here. So this is going to be John 21:6. We got Matthew. That's 4:19. We've got Mark. That might be what that's trying to catch. It looks like it is. I'm going to just delete these for right now. I'm going to keep them in order. Mark. We're going to keep the C spelling. We're going to stick with 1. This is going to be 17. And then we've got, this is where our John comes in. Let's paste it right here. John 21:6. Actually, we got a Matthew in between, don't we? So we got another Matthew. But Matthew comes after John. So Matthew, that's 14:25 to 31. 25 to 31. Okay, then Ecclesiastes 9:10. That one was correct in the OCR. Psalms, that's 80:11. That one was correct. And then we also got Luke. So we got one other one, which is going to be Luke 21:34. Cool. So now that that's saved, if we rerun this page, letter 4 will now be corrected. That's fantastic. Do we have anything on this page, though? Ooh, we do. Matthew 17:13. But we'll have to correct that. I am going to be right back. A short break. Actually, a brief correction. I'm actually going to take a nap. I want to be able to push all the way to 6 a.m. tomorrow morning and get this thing wrapped up. In order to do that, I do need to take a nap. So I'll be starting this live stream up again when I come back.